NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play.
What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. Well, it's finally over. This disastrous season for the Nets has finally concluded. It actually ended like a week and a half ago, but I was in no rush of doing this episode. I mean, the Nets weren't going anywhere. They weren't doing anything. They weren't in the play-in or the playoffs or anything like that. So I'm like, whatever. I'll just take some time. And I did that because I also wanted to hear and read up on a little bit more news pertaining the Nets and some of the things that people are talking about. And I'm actually glad I did wait because pretty much I think the biggest news to take away since the end of the season is that the Nets have a new head coach in Jordi Fernandez. Now, they can't really officially make that announcement yet, though I think they can pretty soon because the Kings did just get eliminated in the play-in. So, before they couldn't make the formal announcement because he's currently still the assistant coach for the Sacramento Kings. But, and the Kings were, at that time of the announcement, the Kings were still in the play-in tournament. But with the Kings being eliminated, I think we're going to soon see a formal introduction to Jordi Fernandez as the new head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe it might take some more time. I don't know if there's, dates or the legal ramifications behind when they can actually make the announcement, but it's pretty much has been determined and been reported that Jordi Fernandez will be the new head coach. So we'll touch upon that in a second. But first, I just kind of want to talk more about this disastrous season for this Nets team and some of the key takeaways that I took from this year, and some of the things that are good and some of the things that are bad, and some of the things I feel like could mean something for this team moving forward. So we'll dive right into that. So let's start with some of the positives we saw with this Nets team. And there really wasn't many, I'm going to be honest, mostly negatives. But I think the biggest positive that we saw was some of the young players that this Nets team had. In particular, the Nets fan favorite Cam Thomas. Now, look, we all know I'm not a big Cam Thomas guy. I'm still not. But I have to acknowledge, and I do acknowledge, that he had a very good year this year, and he showed growth and development. And look, I'm not as high as him and as everyone else. And a great example of this is I have a friend of mine who's a big Nets fan. Me and him have a friendly little bet that he believes that Cam Thomas in the next 5 years is going to finish, All NBA at some point. He's going to become an All NBA player, first team, second team, or third team. And I'm just looking. I'm like, you think Cam Thomas is going to finish All NBA in the next 5 years? Are you kidding me? You're going to say he's going to be one of the top 15 players in basketball within the next 5 years? Cam Thomas? I'm sorry. And look, he's a good buddy of mine. It's a friendly wager. I don't believe that one bit. Cam still needs to improve on his defense, his passing, his playmaking, his basketball IQ, and in my opinion, his attitude. Now, look, he never showed having any type of negative or kind of like a bad demeanor or anything like that. But there was one quote that Cam Thomas had this year that rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't know why it didn't rub anyone else the wrong way, but it rubbed me the wrong way. It was kind of recently, actually. It was maybe a month ago when a reporter asked him, why have we seen so much growth from you this season, or why have you been able to, thrive more this year than in years past? And his answer was, well, because now I'm finally playing. When you play sporadically, it's hard to learn and develop and get your feet under you. Now that I'm actually playing and I'm playing regular minutes and I'm starting, and I'm being the focus of the offense, I'm able to learn and develop better. Bro, I'm sorry. That's kind of in my opinion, a weak answer. You are a professional athlete. whether you're playing in a game or not, you're supposed to be, thriving or striding, excuse me, to get better. It's called practice. It's called working in the gym. It's called working on the off season. I mean, think about the greats. People talk all the time about how Kobe Bryant used to show up at like 4 a.m. for a practice to start at 10 a.m. so he can get his shots and work in. Like, that's the type of mentality you need. To sit there and say, "Oh, I'm only developing now because I'm finally playing." Well, look, there is some truth to that because there's only so much you really can do in practice, but you got to get out there and play. But it was almost like he was trying to like blame the Nets and the coaching staff for saying like this could have happened sooner for me if you gave me a chance. And it's just like that's just a very immature way to look at it. I don't like that. What I would have said if I was Cam Thomas is maybe saying, well, I'm having a little bit more opportunities now. So I'm having, I'm able to apply more what I've learned in practice into the game. And, also I just think just experience in general has helped me. That's the same thing that he just said, but just reworded it in a way that makes it sound less like, well, now that I'm actually playing, you know what I mean? Like, it's how you come across. It's how you phrase things sometimes. And if he just said that, now that I'm getting more consistent experience, it's allowing me to apply what I've been working on. That would have been an acceptable answer. But to say when now it's hard, now that I'm actually playing regularly, it's hard after playing very sporadically. You get it? So, but I digress. The reality is, Cam Thomas showed that he is a very good scorer, probably I would argue a top 10 scorer in the NBA. His ability to make and take tough shots is up there with people like Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and so on and so forth. But I'm still not sold on him as really being the guy for this Nets team. But there is no doubt that he is a very good young player and that he is the best player on this Nets team. I think he's better than Mikal Bridges. And next season, if the Nets don't trade him, which personally I would, but that's just me. If the Nets don't trade him, he will be probably the main player for this Nets team and someone the Nets would have to rely on. And hopefully he can continue to develop and work on his playmaking, work on his passing, work on his defense, and honestly, work on his shot selection because I still don't like some of his shot selections. He still is too narrow focused when it comes to just trying to get the ball in the basket. Like if his first or second shot isn't there, instead of passing the ball and let someone else get an opportunity, he looks for his third, fourth, and fifth shot. And I don't like that because to me that's not winning basketball. But overall, he showed huge strides this season, and hopefully he continues to develop. Remember, he's only 22, so he's still got plenty of time to figure things out and maybe become not a superstar or a star player, but maybe a all-star caliber scorer that can be your second or third scoring option or your first scoring option if you have other type of complementary players around you. Maybe that could be a role for him in the future. I don't know, but that's something we saw. We also saw towards the end of the season Noah Clowney really playing well, and I think that Noah Clowney played so well that I almost feel like the Nets are looking at Clowney as the future at the power forward spot. And I say the power forward spot because, look, Nick Claxton's a free agent, and that's going to be, I think, one of the top priorities for the Nets. But in my mind, I think Claxton's going to come back. But that's something else we can discuss later on in another episode when I say what should the Nets do next, which who knows when that will be. But the Claxton Clowney combination was fantastic towards the end of the season. They were something like a plus 22 together, and their defensive efficiency for the Nets was at its all-time best with those two players. And the fact that Clowney plays similar to Claxton, but he's a little bit quicker than Claxton, a little bit more of a little bit. I would say he's a little bit more skilled than Claxton. I think Claxton's a little bit more defensive and stronger and bigger, but Clowney's a little bit quicker and more skilled. But they're very similar, and having them both play side by side is fantastic. And Clowney being able to shoot the three-point shot consistently, and the three ball consistently makes it so much better. So that was great to see. Jalen Wilson, I think he's a rotational player in this league. And I said this before when they traded Royce O'Neal. He was someone I wanted to see get more minutes, and he did. He looks really good. So those young players for the Nets kind of proved and showed that they're developing over time. Trendon Walford, he's still a relatively young player. He's 24 years old too. He's a free agent as well, but he really showed how he can play if he's given an opportunity. So the young players really, I feel like, proved themselves for the Nets this season. It was the veterans that let them down. Let's start off with Mikal Bridges. After a great end of the season last year with the Nets after the Kevin Durant trade, there was expectations that, hey, can Mikal Bridges really be the focus of a franchise, the focus of a team, the focal point of an offense? And I think we got our answer this year. The answer is no. I think Mikal Bridges showed us this season that he really is, at best, a third option. I think that's the case. I think he caught people off guard last year because defenses weren't focusing on him. They weren't planning for him. They didn't see his whole repertoire. But now they see his repertoire. And whether it's because he's, constantly plays and he's playing hurt all the time and he plays a lot of minutes, or whether it's just he's just got a bad year, or whether it's just the fact, like I said, defense focused their defense on him now, and he became, part of the scouting report. Regardless of what it was, the reality is, he showed that he is just pretty much a third best player on a championship team. I will say, though, that if you look at some of the games that the Nets won when they shouldn't have won, or when they had a big victory, it did come at the hands of Mikal Bridges scoring like 40 points or like 35 points. So I do think he kind of became an X factor for the Nets, which is funny because he was supposed to be the star player, but he became more of an X factor. But, look, he's still a really good player. I don't think I think some of the Net fans got a little sour on him because he didn't play the way people were hoping a star player would play. But there's still no doubt that he's still one of the best two-way players in this game. He's still a very good defensive player. He's still a very good scorer. He's just not where we were hoping he would be, but he's still a really good player. And like I said, a third star on a championship team. So that's my takeaway from him. The word is that the Nets are not going to sign him to an extension yet. He is extension eligible. I think that is smart because as much as we do like Mikal Bridges, he's still a very valuable trade piece. And I know, listen, we all heard about the rumors about, the Rockets trade. I think I touched upon that a little bit in my last NetsBoy episode. Allegedly, the Nets offered, Jalen Green and some draft picks for Mikal Bridges, and the Nets said no. And everyone's like, what the hell is that about? Especially since Jalen Green really came on strong towards the end of the season. But the reality is, Mikal Bridges has a lot of value, whether the Nets keep him or don't keep him. And he has more value with a more controllable contract, or a little bit easier to navigate contract. I feel like if you sign Mikal Bridges to a max contract, which is what he's probably looking for, he becomes harder to trade. Kind of like what's happened with Zach LaVine in the Chicago Bulls. Like it's hard for the Bulls to trade Zach LaVine because he hasn't played like a max contract player. And I feel like that's kind of the way Mikal Bridges has been with his career or this season. So I think it's smart that they haven't extended him. But I still like him. I still think he's a key piece for this Nets team. And it just was disappointing and a rough year for him. But so he let the Nets down in the sense that he didn't continue to play at the level he played before. Cam Johnson, the other Cam. He let the Nets down by just being Cam Johnson. I mean, I'm sorry. I said this in my last episode too. I'm done with this guy. I'm done with this guy having these moments where he looks great and then getting hurt all the time. I'm done with him being anti-clutch. I'm done with his inability to really play defense. Like, he's not a good defensive player. I've heard he was. I don't see how. He's just too inconsistent. I hate inconsistent basketball players. Like I hate all or nothing type of players. And that's what I feel like Cam Johnson is. So personally, I would love the Nets to trade Cam Johnson. I actually have come up with some trades that I would love the Nets to do, packaging the Cams together, Cam Thomas and Cam Johnson, and going out there and getting a really good established star player, you know. But we won't talk about that now. That's something else we would talk about in a future Nets Boy episode. But Cam Johnson just he became almost a non-factor with this team because he constantly was getting hurt and didn't do it. And when he did play, had his moments, but not enough. And then like Dorian Finney-Smith, he had moments where he was looking great, and then he all of a sudden like ran into a wall and really struggled. So he didn't look that great. So like the veterans really let the Nets down. I mean, we can go back and look at Spencer Dinwiddie before Spencer Dinwiddie was traded. He was supposed to be like the main guy, point guard, and the engine that ran the team, and he just didn't do it anymore. And I don't know if it was because he was, hearing rumors he was going to get traded, so he was shutting it down, or if he just didn't want to step on anyone's toes because they were trying to get Cam Thomas going. It was really weird how Dinwiddie played this year for the Nets, because when the Nets were 13-10, Dinwiddie was a big factor for them being that good. And then he just like disappeared. And then the Nets got Dennis Schroeder, who probably was the only veteran I can honestly say was good for the Nets this season. And once he got traded, he played great. And I think that he proved that he can be a starting point guard in this league. And because that's always been something of a debate with Dennis Schroeder throughout his career, was could he really be the starter? Isn't he best as like a backup? I think he should be a starter. I think he proved that. I think his playmaking is right there with the best point guards in the league, and he's just a good floor general. So I actually like Dennis Schroeder. He's the only veteran that I feel like played well. But then there's the last veteran to talk about, really, and that is Ben the Useless Simmons. I mean, and what is there to talk about this guy? What is there to say? I don't know. I mean, I can't go down that rabbit hole again and start talking about all the Ben Simmons crap like I've done in the past. But I mean, another veteran that was just completely useless. And I can't believe this, but I guess the Nets have no choice. There's a report that's saying the Nets plan on utilizing Ben Simmons next year and once again see him as a key piece to their team. But I guess, like, what else can the Nets do? Like, you're stuck with this guy. He's got 1 year left. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to cut him, or and release him, because you still got to pay him that money. But it's an expiring contract. If I'm the Nets, you want to try to see what he can do, if he can stay healthy for a short stint, and immediately the minute that he shows he can stay healthy for like 15 games straight, you call up some team and you try to trade him. And you say, hey, he's expiring contract. He's kind of healthy. Who wants him? So, like, I don't blame that report. I don't blame the fact that it's reported that the Nets are planning on keeping Ben Simmons, because it's all they can do. Because the guy is just, like, what's the worst case scenario? He doesn't play? Like, this team is such a joke. But yeah, so the veterans let the Nets down, and those are more the negatives. And honestly, it's the veterans that made this team, underachieve. 32-50 is underachieving for this Nets team. They were expected to be around 36, 37 wins. That's what Vegas had them over under 37 and a half. So for them to finish 5 games under 37 is just very disappointing. To not make the playoffs was disappointing. Just so many disappointing factors with this Nets team. And honestly, yeah, I got to blame the veterans the most about it. And yeah. So now there's really only one more thing I feel like really needs to be addressed and talked about before I'll wrap up this episode. And that is the coaching situation for this Nets team. Now, as I touched upon earlier in this episode, the Nets have reportedly hired Jordi Fernandez as the new head coach. Now, before we once again talk about Jordi and what I think this could mean, I do want to briefly just talk about Jacques Vaughn again and then Kevin Ollie. and what we saw from this Nets coaching staff. I actually kind of feel like both guys did a okay job. I actually kind of liked what I saw from Kevin Ollie when he took over. Jock Vaughn, I feel like things did just run its course with him. I think it just got to a point where the things that were working last year for Jock weren't working this year, and he just wasn't really making the adjustments that he needed to make. And I feel like the Nets letting him go was the right decision. You know, I I'm not going to get into too much about that because we touched. I obviously talked about it earlier in the year when it first happened, and the Nets did let Jock Vaughn go. I just kind of felt though that he did a solid job for this Nets team, but I do think it was the right move to let him go. Kevin Ollie, I feel like, did a pretty decent job as the interim head coach. I really do. He didn't have a long time to try to prove himself, but what I like about Kevin Ollie is he really isn't afraid to try to mix things up, and he went with the young guys. He went with Noah Clowney. He went with Jalen Wilson. He went with trying to figure out, can Claxton play with Clowney, and can Clowney play a small ball five? Like he tried and experimented with a bunch of things. Now look, that might have been coming from Sean Marks and the Nets higher ups because they're like, look, we really got no shot at making the play in, so let's just see what we got with these young guys. But Kevin Ollie just seemed like he was more experimental with trying to figure things out than Jock Vaughn. And you know, I feel like the jury's still out on if Kevin Ollie would be a good head coach or not. But the Nets did their research and they had an extensive search and they chose Jordi Fernandez. And now, does this mean the Nets might do what they did, a couple years ago when they hired Steve Nash after letting Kenny Atkinson go, and they let Jock Vaughn go from interim head coach to assistant coach? Are they going to do the same thing with Kevin Ollie? Are they going to tell Kevin Ollie, "Hey, we really respect you. We would love to offer you the assistant coach position to be alongside you know Jordi Fernandez"? I don't know. I don't know. Um, that's up to Kevin Ollie. I'm sure that's going to be a conversation that Sean Marks is going to have, because I do think Kevin Ollie deserves to still be on the. He definitely deserves a job. I don't think Kevin Ollie did a bad job. That's what I said. I think he didn't have enough time. So if I'm Kevin Ollie, I'm looking for like a young team to coach. I'm looking for another opportunity to be a head coach to prove himself. But maybe he's going to become the assistant for the Nets. I really don't know. I guess time will tell. But now let's just quickly look at Jordi Fernandez, because there's not a lot that's known about this guy, at least, not unless you're in NBA circles. So Jordi Fernandez was one of the lead assistant coaches for the Sacramento Kings. He was apparently a big reason why the Kings had so much success, especially last year, in which the Kings, Mike Brown ended up being the coach of the year. Um, and he's apparently just a very innovative and clever young coach. Like, that's what everyone says about him. He's very good at addressing players and communicating, and he's also very good with X's and O's and understands how to maximize the potential out of certain players. That's the report on him. I mean, I'm going to say this. These are similar qualities that we heard when the Nets signed Kenny Atkinson as the head coach. And to this day, I think every Net fan believes Kenny Atkinson should have never been fired. Kenny Atkinson should still be the head coach of this Nets team. And so when I hear things like that, I get excited for Jordi Fernandez. I get excited about another young coach, unproven coach, hungry, trying to make his mark in the NBA. And I prefer this. I know Mike Budenholzer was one of the other final candidates. I hate it when teams just rehire and recycle the same coaches, because the same coaches, head coaches that have been in the league for a long time, we know who they are. They tend to be the same type of coach the same way. And even though Mike Budenholzer won a championship, dare I say it, they shouldn't have won that championship. The Nets should have won that championship, because the year that the Bucks won the championship was that disastrous season with Kevin Durant with the toe on the line. And we all know the Nets should have won that series if Kyrie didn't get hurt and James Harden wasn't a half player and Durant's foot wasn't on the line. The Nets would have won that series. The Nets would have won a championship for sure. But instead, the Bucks won, and Mike Budenholzer's a championship head coach. And everyone's like, oh, he should be the head coach. He's not that great of a coach. He really isn't. I never thought he was. I thought he was extremely overrated. So I was a little nervous when I heard he was a finalist. But then when I heard that Jordi Fernandez is the new head coach, like I said, I'm excited. So, look, does this mean Jordi Fernandez is going to be the coach of the Nets for the long term? Who knows? Does this mean he's going to be a good coach? Who knows? Does this mean that he's going to take some time to figure things out? Who knows? For me, it's just the fact that the Nets are once again trying to be a little bit more innovative and trying to be more strategic and not just going with the big sexy splash or the hot name. They're going with what they really believe could help them become the old Nets that they were back in 2019. So overall, I like it. I've said this before. There hasn't been a formal announcement because I don't think the Nets can yet, but we will soon get that announcement, and I'm sure we'll have a press conference and we'll be able to hear Coach Fernandez and see what he has to say and see what he thinks of this team, and go from there. So overall, I like it. I'm very happy for Rudy to get his opportunity, and I think he's going to help this team out a lot. All right, so there you have it. I mean, there's a lot more I could talk about and discuss about this season and so on and so forth. But we're nearing 30 minutes now, and that's when I start saying that these videos go to way too long. So I'm going to wrap up this episode. In conclusion, this has been a very disappointing year for the Nets. They had some, don't want to say high expectations, but they had better expectations than a 32-50 season, finishing 11th in the Eastern Conference, not even making the play-in, firing a head coach. I mean, the list goes on. So it just was a very disappointing year, frustrating year. Once again, I'm glad that it's over. And at this point, I'm just excited to see what the next chapter is for this Nets team. I will say this. I expect loads of changes, and there better be loads of changes. I think this team needs to be completely revamped almost. I feel like some of these players just didn't work out. That's something I'll talk about in my next NetsBoy episode, which might be, I'm not quite sure when it's going to be. Normally I do a NetsBoy right before the NBA draft. But at this point, the Nets don't have any picks in this upcoming draft, though Sean Marks did apparently hint that he might try to acquire a pick in this draft. So maybe if the Nets do acquire a pick in this draft before the NBA draft, I might do another episode or so, if not, or so. If not, I'll probably do an episode right before free agency starts, in which I'll address some of the things that I feel the Nets should do, some of the moves I feel like they should make. Or who knows, maybe there'll be some other moves that the Nets will do before that, whether it's a trade or something like that, and I have to do an episode. So just keep your eyes open for the next Nets boy. For the time being, this is it until definitely the end of the NBA season. So you definitely won't be seeing another episode unless something crazy happens from now until at least June. So thank you again for dealing with me. This is my 10th season. I found out that I've done this, and it's mind-boggling that I've been doing this for so long. So I thank you all again for everything. Subscribe, all my subscribers, all my viewers, and so on and so forth. So keep your eyes open to the next NetsBoy episode, whenever it'll be. Until then, this is NetsBoy saying it's finally over and signing off.